Here in London, as in all modern cities, we want better transport, more energy, less carbon and safer water. And Britain offers a series of significant advantages in partnering with China to achieve these goals. The UK is a leader in developing technologies that are ready for use and has a record in planning major projects that make an impact as lasting as the London 2012 Olympics. In helping to support the upgrading of infrastructure, Britain is now drawing on its capabilities in design, finance and innovation to find creative low-carbon solutions that happen on time and in budget.
China is continuing to invest in infrastructure, whether it's in roads, rails, airports, whether it's in hospitals, whether it's in schools. What we have in the UK is tremendous expertise in the design of buildings and big infrastructure projects. So tremendous opportunities exist for architects and our consulting engineers. But of course all of these buildings and infrastructure need to be kitted out with the right equipment. And again, the UK has a lot to bring to bear.
There are great opportunities for innovations and new solutions in China's market. China is growing, as everybody knows. There are new cities being built constantly, and they have to be built in a sustainable way. So there are huge opportunities there for UK companies that have experience in that building technique.
So if you take the Olympic, where the budget was 9.5 billion, it requires delivery of a lot of facilities, has to be done within a very short period. Procurement have to be seen to be wide across the whole of UK, and there have to be a lot of stakeholders to be managed. That particular experience was fantastic because in delivering that, we learned very quickly how not to miss the deadline. We also learn how best to procure. We also learn how to make sure that there is a cross-industry support for delivering such a mega project. We learn at the back of that how to build a legacy. And we've transferred that knowledge into building other projects such as Crossrail, which is now coming towards the end. And gradually we'll transfer the same knowledge into building things like High Speed 2, again, which is a mega project. So those projects are actually, they feed on the back of each other.
The UK has a huge history in urbanisation. We were one of the first industrialised nations, so we have been building cities over centuries, and we have great experience in how to build those cities, what works, what doesn't work, and our companies are world-class in this area.
Rapid expansion can bring exposure to risk. Many cities are finding themselves vulnerable to floods, which can cost lives, as well as damaging billions of dollars worth of infrastructure.
The way Hesco is helping to defend infrastructure in Asia is really working with the agencies who have the responsibility for dealing with floods. We give advice and training, as well as providing our products, which are a cost-effective, rapidly deployable barrier system. The sorts of projects Hesco has been involved with in Asia in protection of infrastructure has been putting our barriers around key infrastructures such as industrial estates, basically mitigating against the economic impacts of flood in those circumstances. We've also been involved in putting our barriers up on the main highway in Bangkok in order to ensure that the main evacuation corridor out of the city is protected again in the cases it's required in a flood event.
The effects of flooding can really be looked at in two areas really. You have the immediate effects of flooding, which is the loss of power, the loss of clean drinking water, and ultimately of course the loss of life. The second effects, which can be far longer lasting, is that sort of the economic effects which it has, the exposure to contaminated water, which brings the associated health issues, and also to consider the fact that the area that has been flooded can also affect the areas that haven't been flooded, just because of the economic and logistic factors really.
I think the challenges facing planners trying to manage rapid expansion is really one of control. The social and economic pressures to use all available space means that they have to ensure that the right infrastructure is in place. In doing that and having infrastructure in the right place to meet demand, that inevitably doesn't happen, and inappropriate or not suitable locations tend to get used. And in those cases they need to have plans in place to put both permanent solutions in place for protection against events, but also have contingency planning available to them. The problem with permanent solutions can often be the cost and time involved in getting them in place. So the use of contingency planning using barriers such as ours is critical to the overall management of the problem.
In our experience, the best way to plan a defence against flooding is to be as proactive as possible. It's knowing where the flood's going to be, when it's going to be, because effectively the more time you've got, the more you can do. It's knowing where to pre-locate your barriers, it's knowing the manpower that you need to construct the barriers, the fill materials you need, having a quick response plan, being actively engaged with the agencies that are actually fighting the flood. So you've got this good, robust system of communication, so you're knowing what's happening and when it's happening, and can react to the situation, which is invariably going to change. The advantage of using Hesco barriers in flood prevention is they've been engineered to do what they do. They're quickly put in place, they're rapidly taken away. You can extend them, you can widen them, you can lengthen them, you can increase the height without taking away the first barrier that you've actually put in place. So you can augment what you've already put in place effectively. They're robust, they can adapt to the changing ground environment, and they have proven over time to save countless lives and billions of dollars worth of infrastructure.
Partnership between UK and different Asian countries work best when people actually deliver where they have expertise. And where does UK have expertise? We have a very strong expertise in the front-end project development, master planning, where we look at the conceptual in partnership to understand the holistic requirement, but the detailed design is being done locally. So you are doing a lot of the local input into the development and the execution of the project. But the overall control and the master planning and the guidance and the financial management of that project can be brought to you. Where UK companies are working on airport development and the project needs to be financed from international, such as London, by UK company being involved in the project planning phase means that they were able to secure the financing, and then local contractors were able to do the execution. But the asset management and the holistic asset planning can still reside within UK. That way, you get a blend of both worlds.
The UK has tremendous history and experience in urbanisation, in creating urban spaces that are sustainable and that work. We can offer everything from master planning, design, technology, all these things that China needs in building new and sustainable cities.
The advantages that the UK offer in designing and completing projects stem from the complete holistic approach, from the project conception to asset management. And as the market continues to grow in Asia, particularly in the area that we see as a growth market, there is an infinite demand for for infrastructure, but there's a limited resource in terms of finance. So looking at projects to make it bankable is critical. Looking at projects in packaging for financing is critical. Looking at the planning and the execution of projects is critical. I think most of the Asian countries are very good at delivering major infrastructure, but the planning and the coordination is very critical. And I think going forward, where the opportunities are for UK PLC is in looking at the professional services in how they execute a project.
To meet the challenge of cutting carbon and to develop lasting solutions, the UK's Energy Technology Institute puts together the best science with insights into how consumers behave, what regulators expect, and what investors finance.
In order to innovate in a clean tech environment, you have to recognise that a number of new technologies are still at a very early stage. So what's really important is to be able to collaborate with the academic part of your economy and the commercial sector. And that needs some support across the middle in order to make those investor friendly so you can get rollout. You need to advance technology on a number of broad fronts. However, you also need to advance the investor confidence, understand the market dynamics, understand the political environment into which that technology will play. All of those things together will allow you to make an impact. There's no point in just generating technology for technology's sake. They have to find a market, and to do that they have to find investment. There's lots of innovation out there existing in universities and in companies. The trick is to find the right ones that are going to have the biggest impact in the energy system. and to test the claims of what you think the technology can deliver against what it can actually deliver. That drives you down a need to do some real testing and to do some real development work. We've done some of that already with some of our earlier projects, and we're doing some more later. In our earlier projects, we've taken a marine turbine where the market confidence isn't there yet around the reliability, and we've been working on that now for 2 or 3 years to prove it is possible to get a reliable turbine in the water. And in another area, we've been innovating around long blades for offshore wind turbines up to scale of over 100 metres using a radical aerospace type technology. Existing fossil fuels are still going to be part of the mix and will probably always be part of the mix. They have a great advantage in their energy density, so if you want to move things around, they're a great source of fuel to take with you. Where it gets expensive to take them out of the system and to take the carbon out is if you try and decarbonise the transport sector. You can decarbonise parts of the transport sector with light vehicles, whether they're electric vehicles or hydrogen vehicles, but with heavy duty vehicles, the trick is to try and get a more efficient system. And we're investing heavily in that area for both on-highway and off-highway and marine vessels. So one of the biggest levers with fossil fuels is around making carbon capture and storage work. If you can make carbon capture and storage work and make it economically viable, that opens up a whole series of other possibilities, including using biofuels, whether in a gasification plant or in a simple incineration plant. The major challenges of trying to bring all of this together in an energy system is understanding which levers are driving which, so that's a systems approach. It's necessary to try and understand the complexity that you're dealing with. Apart from the systems understanding that you need to also think about the political environment, you need to think about the economics and the financial community. What's going to drive investment in order to scale up? When you then start bringing that into home energy and into how do consumers use the products, you've got to understand what drives consumer behaviour. It's not simply a matter of designating or designing a system and then telling everybody how to use it. Your system has to be flexible, both in the way in which you generate your energy and the way in which you distribute your energy, because consumers will use it in ways you hadn't expected them to use it. Our tenders are published and open, so they're on the website. We welcome responses from everywhere. Innovation has no boundaries.
The scope for British companies to help Asia in developing clean energy is very, very important and very encouraging. Clean energy, such as renewable, are very, very important because fossil fuel emission is now becoming an old ad strategy. So using things like solar panel development, photovoltaic development are very, very good. Things that we've done in this country. Windmill is becoming very, very important. They're very cheap and very effective to be operated, and it doesn't cost a lot. Hydro business, which is really using water to create energy, is becoming, it's an old strategy, but it's now coming back. And that is something that I think, China in particular are very well blessed with a lot of water. So being able to use hydro technology or use natural wind technology to create energy which are not using fossil fuel is a big market for UK companies.
There is considerable scope for British companies to help China with clean energy in areas such as wind, marine, tidal energy, LNG, even nuclear. Nuclear is interesting from both sides. China has experience in building and running nuclear power stations. The UK has experience in decommissioning. Both can be helpful to each other, so they're interesting areas of potential collaboration.
Clean water and wastewater management is a big issue for Asia because of the population, because of the need to have a very healthy society. That's absolutely imperative. China in particular has gone through major growth. That growth was back on different fossil fuel energy being consumed. Pollution is pretty high. Land is contaminated. Water and irrigation system need a lot of reclamation to make it work. So there is a huge opportunity to actually make sure that the society are operating and living in an environment where it's sustainable.
Clean water and wastewater are important issues throughout the world, not least in China. With the rapid urbanization in China, more and more people moving into the cities, the need and requirement for clean water, for disposal of water are increasingly important.
In planning future infrastructure, operators have the chance to leap ahead of conventional assumptions in Europe and the US. Critical systems, such as those for managing wastewater, might once have depended on a high use of energy that limited their use. No longer. A radical rethink is opening up the prospect of better treatment of water for all.
Hydro can play an important role as Asian cities rapidly grow. With the increased urban growth, there's increased pressure on the water management resources. As Asian economies expand, so their demand for water management solutions increases. A big part of that water management solution is to improve the efficiencies of their wastewater treatment plants. In many parts of the world, we're seeing the implementation of conventional technologies. Where plants are using conventional technology, there's high energy consumption, which equates for about 50% of a plant's cost. On top of that, there's additional maintenance costs. As plants become more aware of actual operating costs of wastewater treatment plants, so they require better technologies. By introducing Hydro's innovative vortex solutions, we can dramatically reduce the amount of energy and maintenance required in wastewater treatment plants. Vortex technology, in very simple terms, is the spinning of water. It's not a high energy process, it is a relatively low energy process. By rotating the water, we can separate solid particles by just using the flow of the water itself within a plant. It requires no external moving parts and no power consumption. And vortex is proven to be a very effective way of removing non-soluble particles from fluids. We can draw many lessons from both Europe and the US, where plant operators are beginning to understand it is the total life cost of individual products, and the design of the plant itself is becoming more important. With that, we can work with those plant operators and improve their design by improving the grit removal efficiencies, which then enables reducing power consumption and maintenance costs of the plants and the overall process efficiency of that wastewater treatment plant. There's a challenge across many new regions in terms of proving that vortex technology is effective. To do this, we have two ways. One is by supplying the wastewater treatment plants a pilot unit that demonstrates on a small scale the efficiency of vortex technology in removing sediment particles from the flow. On top of that, we can use computer fluid dynamic modelling. Computer fluid dynamic modelling is about 80% accurate of what actually happens in reality. We can tap into this very powerful tool to work with our clients and customers in the Asian market to demonstrate the efficiency and the effectiveness of using advanced vortex technology from Hydro in their plants. As we expand into the Asian markets, it is very important for Hydro to put the necessary capabilities into the region. To support our initiatives across the Asia region, we're establishing a number of Hydro offices across Asia. On top of that, we have a number of individuals who are based within the region. This allows us to work closely with the local engineering community. Having individuals based in territory, we understand the local market requirements. This is then supported by after-sales service support and local distribution partners in territory. This is backed up by engineers, both process and structural engineers in the UK and in the US. On top of that, we can provide further research and development support with our hydraulic laboratories. Asian economies have a great opportunity to leapfrog what is established in the EU and the US. Because they have this access to new innovative technology, they can design new greenfield sites that utilise the best forms of technology, of which part of that is the advanced vortex separation provided by Hydro.
We have tremendous experience in building. We have tremendous experience in new technologies, in integrating technologies. Areas such as BIM are UK areas of expertise. UK companies are excellent at offering turnkey solutions. We can go right through from master planning, designing, through to technologies, monitoring, all kinds of areas that are useful to China. We also have a strong history in building standards and building to last. China has generally not built to last, but it is now planning to do that.
I think the potential for UK PLC to contribute to the upgrading of infrastructure is high. One is that if you look back into how Asia was formed, the UK PLC had a very, very long history connected into that. Take Hong Kong, for example, and you also take China, for example. A lot of the design standards are very universal, so those design standards are transportable. A lot of the infrastructure is coming through. We need different investment vehicles to come into that. UK is very much ahead of that game. I worked in Hong Kong. I know exactly what we've done in Hong Kong 20, 30 years ago. We see more growing demand for UK expertise and British expertise to work in Asia to help in developing the infrastructure.
In pursuing innovation in global energy, Severn Glocon never stands still, constantly looking to find ways of improving performance and managing costs on the mega projects that it works on.
We are an innovation company. We're an engineering company, but we seek to innovate. We work a lot in oil and gas, where high pressure, high temperature and reliability is important. What we seek to do is to bring that methodology and those standards into infrastructure projects, but at a cost that they can afford. Power generation is one of the big themes globally, so we want to be part of that, be it renewable energy or traditional energy, but bringing our products to bear is about being innovative and making sure that they're fit for all industries and not just one. The LNG industry is a very interesting one for us to look at and discuss. It's now a global industry with large mega projects being developed in Southeast Asia and in Northwest Australia. Large-scale projects designed to lift and distribute liquid natural gas around the world. The great thing about LNG is that it's transportable. But it's very difficult to transport. It needs to be cryogenic, it needs to be maintained stably, and it needs to be transported over long distance before it's distributed to its end customers. So it's a very difficult industry to work in, technically challenging. What we've been doing as a business is taking our product, which has been used for many years, but also applying our heritage in cryogenics to ensure not only that we can provide a product that fits and acts in that environment, but actually is manufacturable in the scale that they want it. We've been recently manufacturing valves 42, 45 inches in size. Now that is very, very large valve. But for us as a manufacturer and involved in the development of projects, it's actually much more about making sure that the product actually is reliable in the long term. In ageing and maturing assets, fugitive emissions are always a demanding challenge. It's important that we never compromise on environmental safety. Our approach is to make the plant smarter and more interactive. We've been working with local universities in the UK to develop new products which are smart components, intelligent and are able to provide the maintenance engineers with data, live data, which allows them to see whether or not there are any problems arising and then fix them before they become an issue. Key for that is things like smart glands on valve and joint integrity, something that we are very heavily involved in. Looking at innovation and being prepared to take on board innovation and develop it and put it in place and not be frightened of innovation is important. So you should learn from the past, but you've got to apply it correctly. So understanding, making it work, and not being frightened of innovation is a really important lesson to learn for any new project. And I suppose finally, not being frightened of introducing ideas right at the very outset during the planning of a new project. Don't just work to the specifications that have always been there in the past. Look forward, look new, look more effective, look more efficiently is really what we would suggest is the way forward for all projects.
Britain is making a considerable impact on China's infrastructure through a number of projects, such as BRE working with Tsinghua University on green building standards, and other companies, architects who are building fantastic buildings throughout China. There are master planners and engineers who are also putting up those buildings, and architects who are working on urbanization, creating urban spaces for sustainable cities in China.
There are a number of high-value projects where Britain is making an impact in infrastructure. If you take China, the Olympic complex that was built in there, the bulk of that was done master planned by Arup in UK, working with local Chinese people in building that particular facility. That was an excellent one. If you take Hong Kong, at the moment, there's a huge Kowloon station which is being built, which is the main terminal going to China. Again, you have people like Langorok who are working on that project. Massive construction projects going through.
More high-profile projects are sure to follow. In upgrading infrastructure, Britain and China are proving a powerful combination. China has the scale and the capability. Britain can add the master plan, the innovative technologies and the financial expertise. These partnerships will continue to build on the potential for maximising the value of the infrastructure as assets and for fulfilling expectations of a better quality of life.
Any company across Asia who wish to work in collaboration in Asia with a British company, they are very much welcome to contact us. We have our website which is available. A lot of our members are accessible through the website, but in most cases, the first advice we give is please do contact us. Let us know what your project is, what your challenge is. Will we find the right partner for you to make sure that your project is successfully delivered? Bringing the best of British and best of Asia to make sure a winnable solution.
Anybody in China who is interested in following up on what the UK can do in this space can visit our website, which has a lot of information, a lot of downloads, a lot of research that can tell people more about how the UK can help China in its infrastructure projects.
The spread and the diversity of our membership is actually quite important in the sense that we are part of a global organization called FIDIC, and in China there is an ACE, in Malaysia there's an ACE, in Indonesia there's an ACE, in India there's an ACE. So we are part of a big organization that actually represent the professional services. Our members foresee a role to make a dream a reality, which is to build the best infrastructure possible that is sustainable and deliver the society needs.
Well, that's all we've got time for at the moment, but if you'd like to know more about any of the organisations that we featured on the programme, then visit our website, thebusinesschannel.tv. Bye-bye for now.